Ernest Hemingway once said, "All modern American literature comes from one book by Mark Twain called Huckleberry Finn." In many ways, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the always controversial boys' adventure book, marked the beginning of a new literature that was distinctly American in its focus on the strength of one individual, its realistic portrayal of real American characters from the Midwest, and its concern with unique American problems. Twain originally conceived of Huck Finn as a sequel to The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but he soon found himself exploring darker territory as Huck wrestles with his decision to help the runaway slave Jim. Twain worked on the manuscript off and on for almost a decade, apparently abandoning the novel for several years. His difficulty in finishing the book mirrors the moral struggle that Huck Finn himself faces throughout the novel as he tries to decide whether he is doing the right thing in helping his friend Jim. Huck's inner struggle in turn can be said to represent the country's own struggle with the subject of slavery after the Civil War. As a boy, Twain heard ministers in his church and other adults tell him that slavery was right, and Twain's novel in some ways attempts to reconcile those ugly views with the love that Twain had for his country. Just as Huckleberry Finn depicts the coming of age of a young boy, it is also a novel about the maturation of a nation coming to terms with its own past. Huckleberry Finn has been a controversial book from its first publication in 1884. It was originally criticized by reviewers and banned by libraries for its coarse language, its unsavory characters, including the drunken pap and the con men King and Duke, and its realistic, some would say unflattering, portrayal of Midwestern American dialects and behaviors. Huck as a character, a 13 or 14-year-old boy who doesn't go to school, smokes a pipe, and tells elaborate lies for fun and to get himself out of scrapes, was also condemned as a bad role model for boys. In more recent years, of course, the educational value of Twain's famous novel has been questioned because of its heavy use of the word nigger. The word appears in the book more than 200 times, and for what some see as its stereotypical portrayal of African Americans in the character of Jim, who, like Huck, is uneducated and superstitious, but who also, like Huck, loves life and only wants his freedom. Huckleberry Finn remains one of the most challenged books in the United States, with concerned parents asking for its removal from libraries and school curriculums, and it has largely disappeared from high school English classes. The book represents something of a paradox in its continuing popularity. Its adventurous plot, lighthearted humor, and celebration of a simple and carefree existence endear it to audiences as a quintessential American boyhood tale. In many ways, Huckleberry Finn, who does not answer to adults and spends his time fishing and having adventures, represents the ultimate childhood hero. At the same time, the novel's darker themes and Huck's inner struggle with the morality of slavery, as well as Twain's masterful writing, have made the book valuable as a complex work of literature, one of the great American novels. Although Huck Finn represents perhaps the first real American novel, it arose out of a rich tradition that can be seen in English novels such as Robinson Crusoe, in which one man's adventures of fate are propelled by unusual circumstances of chance. Huck Finn is also considered to take its cue from the tradition of the picaresque. The picaresque novel relates the histories of a lively and resourceful hero, often a rogue, in episodic form as he moves from adventure to adventure. While we often think of Huck Finn as a story about Jim and Huck on the river, these episodic adventures on land make up the bulk of the novel's text. Huck Finn can also be said to mark the true beginning of Southern literature and even the Southern Gothic, with its strong sense of place, its sometimes gloomy atmosphere and darkly imperfect characters, and its satirical take on Southern values. While it is important to keep all of these things in mind as you read Huckleberry Finn, it is equally important to try to relax and enjoy the novel for the great story that it is. Twain's clear writing style and humor have held up well over the years, good signs that this controversial book will continue to be a source of inspiration and entertainment for generations to come.